Are you a student, mentor, or parent that loves robotics?
Then you're in the right place.
Up-to-date info on all things robotics. This
is the RoboZone podcast
with your host, Pete Eckman. The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by Kettering University. It's a Kettering-built world.
Hello and welcome to the 21st episode of the RoboZone podcast. This podcast is for Tuesday, June 20th. In this episode, we do a review of the first couple episodes of the series that we're calling So You Want to Start a New FRC Team. Before we start our review of the prior episodes, I want to announce that we have a new sponsor. In addition to the great sponsorship we already have with Kettering University, we have brought on Andy Mark. Andy Mark, for anyone that doesn't know, is one of the premier suppliers of robotics parts for FRC, FTC, and other robotics teams. On behalf of the RoboZone podcast, we are very excited about our relationship with Andy Mark. We will bring you some information on any sales that are in the near future, so listen out for those. So for those of you who haven't listened to this new series on how to start a robotics team, the first episode that we had was with Brand Bollinger out of Team 2337, the engineers out of Brand Bollinger. So here's a couple minutes of that interview that I had with Brand Bollinger. I hope you enjoy.
If we were going to have a team that was going to be successful from the get-go, we had to have goals set in place that we were trying to reach towards, something that we were trying to achieve from the very beginning. And I think a lot of people, when they start a team, they just kind of start with it as like, we'll roll with it and see how it goes. Where we wanted to have a more logistical approach to it that definitely helped our team work toward a goal, both the students and the mentors.
But tell us about some of the goals that you guys set for that first year.
One of our main goals was scheduling. So our first year, we actually made sure that we recruited a project manager as one of our mentors on our team. And we developed a Gantt chart with all of our deliverable deadlines for our first year. So which week did we want to make sure our chassis was done? Which week did we want to make sure that the ball manipulator was done? That year specifically, the game piece was a 40-inch exercise ball. So it was very difficult game piece to manipulate. So we set goals for ourselves during build season for what we wanted to have done and when we wanted to have it done. Additionally, we set a lot of behavior expectations for our students and mentors and parents on our team and made those very clear from the very get-go. From our very first meeting, we made it apparent the level of commitment that we were expecting from people who wanted to come on as mentors and students that were joining our team. And we felt that that helped set us up for success and develop a core set of mentors and students, some of which are still with us today. And this is the Engineered's 10th season. So one of the main things that we talked about when we developed our team name was whether or not we were going to use our school's identity. Grand Blanc High School's mascot is the Bobcats. So we, of course, tossed around the RoboCats, the Bobcat Robotics, and all of the other derivations of robotics terms and mascots. And we decided that we were going to separate ourselves from Grand Blanc High School's image, but keep their colors. So our school colors are black and red, and our team's colors are black and red. And we decided to include the high school's name in our logo rather than including the same mascot. That was a decision that we made as mentors. And I will say that Grand Blanc Community Schools is very they like sports a lot. It's very athletically driven in the community. And when we decided to do that, a lot of the parents that were on the team were a little bit disappointed. But now I think that it's been 10 years down the road and we've really worked hard to show that it's cool to be a nerd, that it's been a very successful endeavor for us to come up with the name that we did. It actually came from one of our mentors on the team had a shirt that said, you won't be able to resist us, with a picture of a resistor on it. And that's actually where the Engineered's name came from. So as you know, from being on the team, we brand everything Enja. So when we developed a business team on our business section on our team, and we call it our Enja Mart. When we had younger students coming up to our team, they were our nerdlings. So we've taken our team name and we've really tried to spread it across and use it as branding, as you said. And we're also very specific about the fact that the S in Enginerds is lowercase to make the nerd part of it stand out. So a lot of the advice that I give in teams that are forming is to pick a logo that's, number one, simple to screen print and embroider. When we chose our logo, we actually Googled the word nerd, and our logo came up as it is actually, as you may know, since your daughter Lily is really into safety, the Engineers logo is actually the international symbol for safety glasses. So when we Googled nerd, it came up and all of our students were like, that's cool, that sticks out. And you look at it and you think to yourself, is he friendly? Is he not friendly? Is it a him? Is it a her? What is it? And I think part of that anonymity of it is something that has made a brand within the FIRST community. Like you said, when people see our logo or the Engiface, they know that it's the Engineers. So that is something that we have worked really hard to achieve. And another suggestion I make with logos, especially for new teams that are starting, is make something that can be printed unicolor. So our logo, we can print it on black with red and white. We can print it on red with just black. We can print it on pretty much any color, and it can be printed unicolor. So that'll save you a lot of time with digitization. It'll save you a lot of money when you're screen printing, and it makes it really super easy when you're using it in any kind of electronic print that it's easy for you to convert.
That excerpt was from episode 17 of the RoboZone podcast. So if you want to listen to the full version of that podcast, I highly invite you to do it. There was a lot of great information, not only about how to structure a team, but branding a team as well. In another episode in this series of how to start an FRC team, we interviewed Andrew Spiece. Andrew has been a repeat visitor to the podcast since we started the RoboZone podcast, and he's always a wealth of knowledge. So here's a little bit of the interview that I had with Andrew Spiece. Andrew, tell us a little bit about how you got the funding you needed for Trucktown Thunder.
Well, Trucktown Thunder is it's one of the original General Motors teams. We were originally located in General Motors in the structural labs. So for many years, Trucktown Thunder was funded solely by GM. As things got older and more teams started forming, GM started to lower the funding per team, encouraging teams to diversify their funding. We went from having like 2 sponsors to we had over 100 people give us money last year or partner with us last year. So we spent a lot of time and effort into analyzing how to raise funds, how to get funds, what fundraisers are, and how to do them well. We've also spent time on how to approach people, and we've actually been highlighted in the FIRST fundraising toolkit that you can find on the FIRST website on some of our efforts that we've done with our business plan. Gosh, I don't even know where to start.
Well, how about we start with state funding, because there are certain we live in this, we both live in the state of Michigan.
Yes, excellent. It would be 4 years now we've gotten funding from the state of Michigan. The first year we received $3 million in state appropriations directly to FIRST. Actually, it went directly to schools through their state allocation. And it's gone now 4 years now. They've gone down in funding, down to $2 million, and it's stayed there for all the last 3 years, which has been plenty for us to continue to grow. And if you're familiar, we were at about 220 teams when that started, and we're now up to over 450 teams within 4 years, all strictly because of the funding that was given to schools. Now, every bit of this funding does not go to FIRST in Michigan or helping to run FIRST at all. Every dime of it has gone to starting new teams from FIRST Junior Lego League all the way up to FRC. Now, the first year it started with just FRC. Let me think. I think it was just FRC the first year. No, it was FRC and FCC the first year, the second year, and the third year. And this last year, they expanded it all the way down to FLL Junior. So you can get funding for every single team in FIRST now, which is really, really exciting.
They pay out at different levels per the team,
right,
because, of course, Lego League is a lot cheaper to run than in a full-blown FRC team at the high school.
Exactly. For instance, a rookie team who wants to start a team right now anywhere in the state can receive $7,500 from the state of Michigan through state appropriations, plus a $1,500 stipend for a coach, which has to be spent towards a coach. There's some guidelines that they have to follow. It's literally, if you've ever done any grant proposals whatsoever, it's the easiest grant you've ever applied for in your life. Literally, they have a spreadsheet for you to fill out, but it's basically they give you an example and you basically just copy it. I remember the first year it came out, I helped start 8 teams in Genesee County, and that year I helped them fill out every one of those, and I literally was able to start 8 teams and never even visit their school. I was able to do it over the phone, talk them through that grant submission, and it wasn't hard whatsoever. It literally was like, you need the name of who your coach is going to be, one sponsor, and you have to do what's called matching funds from your school district. But matching funds are pretty easy to meet. You can meet them with school facility usage. You can meet it with technology support in the building. So they call it matching funds. But if you think about what the school's giving the team, such as space, is it a coach or something that if you're within a school, they can come up with that funding that's pretty simple for those matching funds for those teams. It's really easy to fill out. I've worked with tons of schools to do it. You can't beat it. Plus, First gives out another $4,000 for any rookie team that starts. So they would get $4,000 the first year and $2,000 the second year. So when you look at starting a rookie team in Michigan, you can start your season with $11,000 in your bank account to get ready to start. Some ways in how that money gets paid out and that sort of thing. You literally have a budget of $11,000 starting out, and that's without getting any funds whatsoever. And that's not counting the $1,500 teacher stipend for FRC.
So that was a little clip from the episode 18 of the RoboZone podcast, and the name of that podcast was Show Me the Money. Thanks again to Andrew Spiece. There's a lot of good information when it comes to funding your team in that episode. So I fully encourage everyone to listen to that episode for all that information. If you want to start a new team, it helped me out starting mine. So next, we're on to episode 19. Before we get to the next clip, I'd like to hear from our sponsors.
The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by AndyMark.com, your robot parts experts.
So the next clip we have for you tonight is with a mentor named Scott Stap from the Fridge Bots. So let's get to that clip. Well, one of the things I wanted to cover in this episode, Scott, is how to recruit kids to be on your team. So can you tell us a little bit about how the Fridge Bots go about recruiting kids for the team?
Well, like I said, this is our 4th year. We're going into our 5th year. And every year is an extreme learning experience, not just for the kids, but for me. And I'm learning more and more. I've been picking Andy Spiece's brain on all sorts of ideas. In fact, we were just in a parade this past Friday night, and he drove the golf cart. That's why I walked behind the float. But people are looking at me going, why are you in the kids parade on Friday night instead of the big parade on Saturday? There's another parade that was on Saturday at like 2:00 in the afternoon. I said, the kids parade are the people that I'm targeting. I want to get the word out to the kids that are either, coming up into middle school or up into high school. And I want them to know that there's FIRST Robotics programs at the schools in their area. In fact, we handed out little notes that said, contact your school for more information. But then I put our Facebook page on it so that they would know to come to us. So that's a countywide impact. In fact, I had some parents looking at the piece of paper, and you could tell just from the look on their face, they're like, what did you just give me? And I went back and I explained it to him. I said, yeah, we actually build robots. The robots that are on that float right there are ones we went to competition with. And the guy's eyes lit right up, and he's like, oh, I'm going to check this out. So you get the parents interested, you might get the kids interested too.
Right.
But as far as...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Though, just off what you were saying is that you're not only impacting your program, but if there's people from other communities like in Genesee County, you guys are in Genesee County, right? Same as me.
We're Shiawassee.
Or Shiawassee. The
Yep.
lines are very thin. You go
Yep.
a block and it's changed. But you're impacting.
Team FridgeBot was the first team in Shiawassee County.
Oh, nice.
We were the
There we
first
go.
robotics team. Durand
So-
was like a week after us.
And now there's Perry. There's a one in Perry, right?
Yep.
And they went to
We've
World
got Owasso.
Championships this year.
Corunna, Owasso, and Durand all started teams the same year. A little bit later, I reached out to Byron and said, you guys need to start a team. I took a day off from work and went down and talked to their principal, and he's like, I would love to start a team, but I don't have anybody to start it. I said, if I can find you a leader, would you run a team? He's, yep. Well, he stuck his foot in his mouth. I found him an awesome team leader, Sarah Geiser, and she has done a remarkable job with that team down there. And then this year we approached Perry kind of in the same way and said, you guys need to start a team. You can do it pretty much for free, and I can show you how. Here's my phone number. Here's my email, and next thing you know, we had people from Perry up in our FridgeBot lab showing them how it goes. And Jan Luft has done an amazing job, just dominated throughout the season. She went to Kettering, and they come off the field, and they were looking kind of dejected. And it's like, what's going on? Well, we can't climb. It's like, let's go take a look at your robot. Put on all new gears and everything. And they were climbing, and they made it into the finals. And then the next time we see them, they had a completely different climber, all redesigned, big old grins on their faces saying, we can really climb now. And they went all the way out to Worlds. And when they got out to Worlds, they were 7, a tie, and 1 loss. And the loss, I will say, was not their fault.
Not bad for a rookie team, huh?
Oh, that was amazing. And now I've got people coming up to me. Oh, you guys have got a robotics team just like Perry? you can't.
You got to set them. You got to set them right. You say, I remember we were first. Remember the team numbers. Look at the team numbers. That's all you got to say.
Yeah, I don't care. If it gets people interested in robotics and gets them to recognize that it's in Shiawassee County, that's great. That's amazing. They did their job.
I heard about it. I heard they had a police escort going to Worlds. That's awesome. So you were at this parade, and you were handing these things out. Now, do you guys in Corona have a FTC team, or do you have a Lego League team?
We have it. I started a FTC team the year after, so we've had 3 years of FTC now. And we're finally getting to the point where these middle school kids are going to start joining us in the high school team. I will say one thing about starting an FTC team is in our school, middle school is like 4th grade through 7th grade. And if you open up an FTC team to all of the middle school, you're going to pack it with 4th and 5th graders. So, and unfortunately what happens is they get discouraged because it's over their head. If somebody's starting a middle school team, they might want to watch that as far as the ages is concerned, and make sure you get a lot of parent help. A lot of parents will believe it's a babysitting job, and it's not. You need almost a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 ratio on mentors on an FTC team.
Well, not only does that educate the kids, it educates the parents too, so they know what they're doing later on as their kid moves up the ranks and into the FRC world, right?
Yes, and hopefully indoctrinates the parents into, you need to be in here and helping us.
So I would like to once again thank Scott Stap for stopping by the podcast and allowing us to interview him and giving us some information on how to recruit for your new FRC team or your new robotics team in general. If you want to listen to that full episode, that is episode 19 of the RoboZone podcast, and it is a great episode as well. So this is the end of our podcast for this week. It is a shorter podcast. There are a lot of people on vacation, a lot of graduation parties to get to. The first Mentors Camp is coming up this weekend on June 24th at Kettering University, and I will leave the link to register yourself for that event in the show notes. I want to thank you for stopping by the RoboZone podcast. Please subscribe, and if you don't mind, if you're listening to us on an Apple device, leave us a review. It greatly helps to get the word out about the podcast, and as well as we love feedback. If you're interested in being interviewed for the podcast, you can reach me at robozonepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks once again for stopping by the podcast, and have a great night.
Thanks for listening to the RoboZone podcast with your host, Pete Ekman. Find us online at robozonetv.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.